Hello everybody, welcome to another kind of impromptu, just what I've been reading video today. But as you'll soon, I guess, by then we'll have is, you'll say I've already seen the Fire Punch video, and as you can see, it has already grown since that is Fire Punch up there. I got 4 volumes, and I just reviewed the 2 because that's all I had at the time. But I went to BAM recently, and I had a bit of a haul. Picked up Tokyo Ghoul Volume 9, picked up Fire Punch Volumes 3 and 4, and I picked up Dragon Ball Super Volumes 10 through 11, because I've been loving Dragon Ball Super recently. I just can't ever find the volumes that I need. But so as I said prior, I read the first 2 volumes of Fire Punch recently, and I loved it. Fire Punch is phenomenal. I love the dark world of it. It's just very, very interesting, very intriguing, very gratifying. Like I said, it's kind of like watching a car wreck, because you don't want to look, but you can't take your eyes off of it. But it was very, very not enticing, but alluring. It was very interesting. Then we have Tokyo Ghoul Volume 8. This was a phenomenal volume because it really showed Kaneki and how much he has grown power-wise since his torture and his hair turning white, because we see as he goes toe-to-toe with Taoka's younger brother, and he beats him. He goes crazy on him. And we also get to see a performance by the Owl, who is the owner of the cafe. Let me find his exact name here. Yoshimura. Yoshimura, we end up seeing him, and he was previously the Owl, who was one of the most infamous ghouls, and he comes back to play, and we also get to see, just briefly, like some flashback into Taoka's life and her brother, whose name, Ayato. Yeah, Ayato. But we get to see Ayato and Taoka's backstory, and we kind of see how their father was killed by ghoul hunters, and how they had to grow up in the cafe, but her brother didn't really want to work for the cafe, so he eventually ended up kind of rebelling and all that, and going all in his own way. We see that, and like I said, the main focus is kind of the battle between Ayato and Kaneki, and Kaneki, like I said, obliterates him. He breaks, I think, it's half of his body, because he discerns that being beaten half to death means you have half of your bones broken, and so he does that, and but I believe ultimately they end up coming to the conclusion that Ayato isn't completely with Aogiri Tree, and that he has kind of been like acting kind of like a double agent. That's kind of what they end up discerning. And we also end up getting kind of Kaneki and Taoka reuniting, and Kaneki reuniting with the people he was defending, or presumed he had been defending, and he just decides to be their kind of bastion, their guardian, rather than going back and working at the cafe. So Taoka is now by herself, even though she had finally gained a friend in Kaneki, a true friend, since she could be her around him, because she was a ghoul and she couldn't be that around human people. Like I said, beautiful art, just beautiful all around, nice thick volume. And we get to see more of just the anti-ghoul forces and stuff like that, which is really cool. And we also get to see the Gourmet briefly, but he doesn't discuss much. We see as Kaneki's like talking with him, he's like, he would obliterate me now. He's like, okay, I guess he will. But then next we have Berserk Deluxe Edition Volume 11. Now, this volume was so good. So we kind of start with the Vertanis, I think that's how it's pronounced, like big portion of this arc. So they finally end up getting on the boat, and for the first volume, kind of them fighting to get to the boat, Roderick's boat, and eventually they get there, and once they do, the Kushan comes out of nowhere, because it's the Kushan who are fighting the Holy See, and that's why they're having difficulty getting on the boat, because they've summoned all these demons there. And so now we see the Kushan actually makes an appearance. He's this big thundercloud guy. And we see as Guts and Serpico try and fight him, but it just doesn't end up working. But however, during this time, we see as forces come to the Holy Sea's area, and these forces are the Band of the Hawk, and they've brought with them Zod and all of Griffith's other higher up minions and all that. And Zod is the cool part here, because Zod comes in and he's trying to fight the Kushan, but he can't, because he can't damage him. But however, throughout all this, we see as Guts is kind of imbued with Shir, I believe that's how you say her name, the S girl, the cool wizard girl, but or witch girl, and we see she kind of imbues herself in Guts to try and keep the Berserker off of him. And so we see as Zod kind of communicates with Guts, and he's like, yo, I am here to fight the Kushan, and he's like, I will fight you afterwards. And they ultimately end up joining sides, because of Zod being told a prophecy prior by the little oracle woman that's with Griffith. And he's like, okay, I need to use Guts to beat the Kushan. So him and Guts end up teaming up to beat the Kushan, and they end up blasting a hole through him. And that continues along, and Zod and Guts are now in preparation for a fight. However, they decide against it since it is kind of to neither of their benefit at the moment. So move along, and they ultimately get up on the ship. Guts has been badly injured, so he kind of falls out, and he's out of commission for a little bit. And we see as Griffith ends up walking on the actual Kushan's physical body in the moving palace that he has, and ends up confronting him, and he's ultimately beaten. But then we kind of see more of on the ship life. We see as Farnese and Shears are kind of practicing their magic, kind of learning and all of that. We see a little bit of an interaction between Guts and Casca, and how Roger kind of learns that how Guts views Casca and all that. And yeah, just kind of more ship life stuff. And then the next main big point is we see as the Kushan is defeated, and he's looking for a way to improve himself. And so he does this by ultimately seeking out this thing. Well, I forgot about this, but there's like his name's like Daedra or something like that. This like early mage who fights Guts and then before the Kushan pulls up, but he was ultimately kind of beaten, and then the Kushan pulls up and all that happens. But it wasn't much of interest because they just kind of fought their way to the ship. Then he pulled up, and then the Kushan pulled up. But yeah, with that, then Guts and crew are on the ship. I don't know why I went back to them, but yeah, the Kushan ends up looking for a way to improve his power. He finds he ends up going to this thing that the Daedra dude had made, which was essentially a man-made Behelit, and so he's essentially reincarnated himself twice, and this leads to a monstrosity. Let me see if I can find a page of it. It's closer to the end here, and yeah, it is gargantuan. This thing right here, yeah, you can't see that too well, but I get a better hand under this. And yeah, this big monstrosity, like Cthulhu-looking eye individual. But yeah, that ends up being summoned, and so it is now Griffith and crew's objective to beat him, because he is seen as the doom that will bring the White Hawk. And we see also as kind of the nobles of Midland are trying to save people from the area that was raided by the Kushan and that they liberated. But yeah, we also see later on as Guts and Roderick's boat is put under fire by a pirate ship, and they just kind of have a cool little naval battle, and just Guts ends up like recuperating and all that. So yeah, it was a really good volume, especially for the Zod like presence in it, because Zod is such a sick character. But yeah, so his presence most definitely improved that. I mean, that's really kind of all that I've been reading recently. So I just recently started reading Don Quixote yesterday, so you'll be getting a video on part 1 of that pretty soon. But yeah, I just saw this very cool art to show you from Tokyo Ghoul Volume 8. Sick art. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about what I've been reading recently. So see ya, and thank you for watching.